survival minded. So what is survival minded? I mean, basically what it says is you need to train yourself and equip yourself to survive in situations like this. Learn a little bit of first aid, learn to identify signs of an incoming disaster, learn to read the bulletins, and learn to monitor the warnings that the state provides. So that is survival minded. Think survival at all stage. It also applies to the man-made disasters. For example, you go to a movie hall to watch a movie. The moment you walk in, you should look at the exit signs. You should look at the 1 second, please. Okay, a lot of countries have very stringent health and safety brief. Inbuilt within the health and safety brief is the possibility of a disaster in that place, and inbuilt is the way to go about it. So look for places, look for places like exit, look for first aid, and you're driving to a place, look for hospitals. Be aware at all times of the national helpline number like 911 in US and 112 in India and stuff like that. So that's survival. And the preparedness is not just at individual level, it's at level of the state, the formal institutions of the state. As a society, you prepare, and institutions. I mean, say, for example, you could be a tech company operating out of, say, Johannesburg or Cape Town or Canberra in Australia. At all levels, you must be prepared to deal with disasters, both natural as well as man-made. That is the preparedness. At individual level, that's what we're addressing today. What can you do as an individual? All that we've discussed till now is what you can do. I mean, by attending this class, you are actually preparing yourself to deal with something that if it was to happen, you are, forewarned, forearmed, and you are prepared to deal with it. Next one. Next, the vulnerability studies, which actually, links to where you live. If you live in, as I mentioned, if you live in Japan, you would expect earthquakes to happen. Similarly, if you go and visit a place, say you go to Colombia or you visit Kashmir in India, if the situation is volatile, there are possibilities of people who don't like visitors to create trouble for you. It could just be a threat, or it could actually be a situation where bullets are flying. So be aware. Awareness leads to preparedness actually. And wherever you go, spend some time, 30 odd seconds or maybe a minute, to find out who are the first responders of those places. What are the numbers you can call, and maybe put them in a mobile phone and ready. And if you're moving out of hotel to visit some place, find out who you could call in case you get into trouble. Next one. Okay, resilience is more an attribute. I mean, the state can create institutions and it can create regulations. It can, like in India, we have National Disaster Management Authority and State Disaster Management Authorities. I'm sure similar institutions exist in all other countries. State can only do so much. It is the societies, the communities at the individual level that will have to build resilience to deal with should something bad happen. Next one. Okay, this part is what the class is about, or discussion is about, managing the disaster. I'm sure you would have discussed natural disasters prior to this session. Today we'll discuss the two topics that we mentioned. So I'm skipping this for the time being. The next one. Now, for the loop to complete, there are certain lessons that you learn. Every disaster exposes gaps. When the tsunami hit Japan, Fukushima, that reactor core started melting. It taught them certain lessons. Now they have strengthened all their nuclear reactors. The same lesson can be learned by anybody and everybody who has nuclear plants. Typically, nuclear plants will always be next to a major source of water. If you don't have a big lake or big river flowing by, you would ideally place them next to a seashore, because it needs a lot of water for cooling. And proximity to a coastline also increases the vulnerability of a tsunami happening. So everybody else has taken note of it, and they're working on processes and also strengthening of the design actually. Not all can be fixed, but a lot can be fixed. And lessons are learned at all levels. You learn at your level, you learn at the level of societies and communities, and the state obviously will learn those lessons. Next one. And all this is useless if it does not feed back into preparedness. We we have a limited lifespan here on this planet. We will go away. We'll probably teach our children, and they'll absorb what they can, and they'll discard what they don't want to. But it is the onus of once again, the state, the institutions, and the societies to preserve this knowledge and feed it back into preparedness. Human species have survived for so long because we learned from pandemics, we learned from natural disasters, we learned from fires and man-made disasters, we learned from massive wars, and we figured out a way to survive. Because every time shit happened, we drew our lessons, we fed that back into preparedness, and we learned to cope with better. So this is a brief of how you deal with a disaster. Is something unpleasant, that something that you don't wish to happen to you. If you follow this loop, that's how you deal with it. Okay, next one. Okay, before I go into specific examples, I would like to pause here and take any questions if somebody has a question here.
Guys, you can raise your hand, or even if you unmute and wish to speak. Any questions? Okay, I think it's maybe all clear for now. Everybody's looking forward to the next
Okay,
chapter.
great. So the next topic I'm going to pick up now is a terrorist attack. Before I start explaining it, let me explain some things about essential difference between what terrorism is and what insurgency is. In case of an insurgency, the goal is to affect the mind of the populace. So the insurgent is less likely to use violent means than a terrorist. A terrorist's only aim is to terrorize by either taking life or threatening to take life. So why the difference is significant is there are a whole lot of countries in the world where a whole bunch of population is not happy with the way they are being governed, and there are insurgencies of various human shape and size happening. You must know when you either live in that area or visit an area what scenario it is. Also, I'd like to clarify here. What we see as an act of terror may be seen as legitimate fight for some worthy cause and all that. So let's not get into semantics. Everybody hold their opinion and everybody's right in their place. That's not the point of discussion here. The narrow point of discussion here is, should you find yourself in a situation with automatic weapons pointing at the wrong end of the automatic weapon facing you, and there is a possibility of you losing your life. I'm going to discuss two examples. These examples are something which happened in my place. They There are more examples which could be happening in your country as well. For today's discussion, I've picked up two. One is more recent, where 4 or 5 terrorists walked into a high altitude tourist place, lined up people and shot them dead. And the second example was this happened very recently, last month, actually. And the second example is the Mumbai terror attack, which happened in 2008. I'll go over them one by one, and then we'll quickly discuss what should you do should you find yourself in a similar situation. The next one, please. Okay, let's now come to terror attack in an open space. So what do you do? Quickly running over the points that we've done. What is preparedness in this case? Preparedness would probably be being aware of where you're going. Is that place peaceful? Are there chances of somebody bringing a gun and terrorizing you? Once again, not everything can be predicted. Norway, otherwise a very peaceful place, but a couple of years ago, one madman came out with an automatic weapon and killed a bunch of people. That is something you cannot avoid, but otherwise it makes sense that when you go and visit a place, you be aware of the security situation. So that is preparedness and awareness. Resilience is an ongoing process. Basically, you strengthen yourself mentally, physically, to deal with situations that are not pleasant, actually. Now, coming specific to this one, should you find yourself in an open space where there are a bunch of madmen planning to kill you? It could be a music festival, it could be a tourist spot, it could be even a sports event in an open space, not like a stadium or something. So because the actions in a confined space and open space are slightly different. So what do you do in case of an open space? the first point is obviously be situationally aware. Should know what is happening. And then there are 3 or 4 options available to you, which is like run, hide, fight, leave, and tell. Okay, let me go over them one by one. You are not trained, not designed, not expected to fight a terrorist holding weapons or explosive. If you have an opportunity, you remove yourself from that place. So you run. It is contextual in the sense if you have, older people with you, if you have children with you, you have to take them with you. So move away from that place at the fastest possible, carrying everything with you of importance and not your equipment. Leave your luggage behind, leave your fancy camera devices behind. Just move. If you have children, pick them up and move. If you cannot move too far, obviously you have to, remove yourself from the line of sight of the terrorists. So you hide. So where do you hide? Don't hide at obvious places. Don't hide too close to the scene. Put some distance between you and the event where it's happening, and try and find shelter in a place. If it's something that can be locked, lock yourself in and put barricades to the point of entry. That's the hide. Uh, make sure you put your phone on silent if you're trying to hide, because that'll give away and you won't like it. Fight is a last option. I mean, if you find yourself, there is nowhere else to go, and I mean, that gun is pointed towards you, then you must put up a fight, and if possible, in a group. There is safety in numbers, and if there are more than one of you, you must charge the attacker. And as I said, uh, somebody will get hurt, but it's better than dying without a fight. So prepare yourself mentally that if there are no options, I mean, running didn't help, hiding didn't help, and you get caught up, then you must fight. Consider this possibility before the event happens to you. Think about it. Speak to your children, speak to your colleagues, speak to your friends, and then discuss it. Uh, when to leave? Please don't be in a rush to leave. If you're hiding and you don't hear gunshots, you don't hear screams, there is no urgency to leave at that moment. Stay there at least an hour or two after you think it's over. There is no point, coming out of your hiding space and find that guy standing in front of you. There is no rush. If you wish to inform people, if you're in an area where your cell phones are working, on the having kept your phone to silent, use the text messaging services or the WhatsApp or any other application that you use to inform authorities. Keep the message trail going without making any noise and without making any sound. Once the event is over, there is trauma. You must speak to a counselor. If you do not believe in formal counseling, speak to your friends, speak to your parents, speak to your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, speak to somebody. It's very important to vent it out. If you do not vent it out, it'll process in your head and it'll keep troubling you. You'll have trouble sleeping, you'll have trouble coping with it. So vent it out. Professional help is best. If not, then rely on your social support. That's very important. The last point is be aware of the local emergency helpline. Remember, a few minutes ago, I said if you go to a place which is not yours, be aware of what numbers to call. It may not be 911 everywhere. Each country has a separate number. Just note them down, dial them in your mobile phone, keep them handy, or just remember one number. And so this is very important. Okay, next one. Once again, I pause for questions, if any, before I go to confined spaces.
Guys, you can also post your questions in the chat if you're unable to speak. I'll read them out. That's
Yeah,
also
that works. That works too. Yeah, that in fact that's better actually. If you can put them in chat, the class
sure.
coordinator was out. None.
All good for now. I think we can.
Okay. Once again, everything else that I've spoken till now holds valid. I picked this example because I live here. There are other examples as well. People are familiar with the Moscow hostage crisis, which happened in a theater, and the Baseline school siege, which happened in, I think, 2004. Uh, Confined spaces pose a challenge, actually. If the terrorists come in a group and they occupy all the possible exits, that removes the option of run and hide. So that creates more problems. Okay, so managing the disaster in confined spaces is slightly different from managing the disaster in open spaces. Quickly run over the preparedness, awareness, resilience part. Most of the things remain uh, similar to what I've spoken. Go to a movie hall, go to a mall, go to a stadia to watch a match or something. Just spend a couple of seconds, build this habit of thinking survival. Build this habit of looking at, should things go wrong, is there medical aid available, what is the exit option, and stuff like that. If there is fire on one flank, which side I go out. If you make it a habit, you won't have to do any work. It will come naturally to you when you go to any place. So preparedness and awareness, make it a habit. Okay, now let's see what can you do if you find yourself in a confined space. It- Obviously, the run will remain an option. Should you find that the bullets are flying from one direction, you will move away from it. All right. The only threat now is that you may not die of a bullet, but you could die of a stampede. So, what do you do in case there is a scenario of stampede? Always, if there is an option, if there is a wall, move next to the wall. All right. It is the people who are in the center of the stampede that tend to get crushed first, actually. Do not panic, and please shout if you have to. Tell people around you, no need to panic. People move slowly, more people can get out. If one person falls, the whole flow kind of stops. Not much you can do. Be aware, move close to wall, and should people start falling, go crouch, make yourself as small as possible, but stay on your feet. Make sure you don't fall. Stay there, and things will stabilize. If the option to hide exists, then you must take it, especially if the terror attack in a hotel and the shooting is happening on some other floor. Do not run. Shelter in place. Get into a room, push your bed, push your cupboard, push whatever you have next to the bed. Make it difficult for the attacker to enter. Remember, attackers in such situation are always on a timeline. They know the law enforcement would kick in, and they're in a hurry. So if they try and open a door and it doesn't open, they would move to the next one. So shelter in place if you can. Make as many obstacles between yourself and a potential attacker. That's the hide part. Fight, obviously. I mean, if you are in a situation that things didn't work out, you couldn't run, you couldn't find a place to hide, and if you'd fight, you try and motivate as many people as possible. Very less likely option, but we still have to cover it. Then instead of just raising your hand and him or her putting a bullet through between your eyes, you know, always make a last ditch attempt. Uh, if there is smoke, smoke is not a problem in open spaces. The wind takes care of it, but smoke is deadly in confined spaces. Uh, if you find the room is the smoke is filling in, try and create a ventilation point. Open a window, break a window if you have to, and create a ventilation point. And then the smoke tends to rise. Find a wet towel, put it next to your nose and mouth, and go as close to the floor as possible. This will give you extra 30-40 minutes uh, before you kind of run out of oxygen. That's the smoke part. And let me see if I just got anything else. No, I guess I've covered. So once again, summarizing: confined spaces, walking in, think survival, think of the possible exits, think of look at where the medical aid is available, and look at what if things go wrong, what would I do, what would I pick up, and who would I leave with. Actually, anytime you're exiting in a rush, please don't worry about your equipment. You can always get another one. If they're children, it's best to pick them up and move with them, because pulling them probably will not work. They might panic and freeze as such. This is what you do in confined spaces. Okay. Once again, we pause here. Any questions?
So we do have a question,
Yeah,
and
please.
I've also got one. So the first question here is asking, why. So we've got another is asking, why is it, better to kind of put a fight up in a last ditch attempt rather than maybe resigning to peaceful death per se instead of fighting an armed terrorist, especially if you're someone who's elderly or a child per se. That's the first question. And so you can answer that and then I'll go through the rest.
Okay, so that it's not like a mathematical problem that 2 plus 2 would make 4. It's an individual's choice. This is my opinion. If you have to go down, might as well go down fighting. Uh, Even if you think you don't stand a chance, your fight might save some other lives actually. In trying to overpower you or kill you or eliminate you, it might create space for others to get away. So this is my recommendation, and it's your call. If if you're not happy with life, you say, "Oh God, be done with it." No, that's called. Sorry, I mean I'm trying to make light of it. It's a very serious thing, and it's a choice. This would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Then the next part, or the next question is to ask if you could touch a bit more on the wet towel again in terms of dealing with the smoke.
So basically, what happens is smoke carries a lot of particles. I mean, it's burnt paper, burnt wood, uh, burnt clothing, and all that. So those are the things that kind of choke you. So if you have a wet towel and you're breathing through it, it is some kind of filtration. So the air that you get through a wet towel is not a very good air, but it's better than what would you have taken in if there was no obstruction. If you have a mask, that works too. A wet towel kind of filters a lot of stuff. The wet towel will collect a lot of floats, and the thing that finally crosses it is slightly better than otherwise. Going next down to the floor is because smoke, the hot air tends to lift and it's less dense closer to the floor.
Okay, thank you. And a question from myself actually is in terms of you mentioned there maybe there's a stampede situation and you're trying to communicate, you're at the center. I'm curious as to what type of language or tone is suggested in these kind of situations. Should you be very loud and clear? Maybe it's obvious, but more so just to understand if I'm with a group of people, what kind of tone should I use?
Actually, panic creates a sense of helplessness, and it's an animal instinct. At that stage, we look for a herd leader, somebody who can sound very authoritative, somebody who seems like who knows what is happening, and somebody who appears like will get us out of this is what people are looking for. That's why when you see a person in uniform, a law enforcement, something, suddenly everybody feels better because they assume that person knows more than you, that person can instill order in this
Hmm.
chaos.
Hmm.
So be confident, be authoritative. So people believe that you know what is happening and they would like to follow you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any other questions? Got through those in the chat. Okay, everybody happy for now. Then we can move forward.
Okay, now we jump into certain, disasters or events or occurrences, unpleasant occurrences that could happen in aviation. Uh, the example that I've picked is hijack. It happened in 1999, a long time ago, where one of Indian Airlines flight flying from Kathmandu to Delhi was hijacked. It was taken to Kandahar. Almost 250 odd people were stuck for a very long time. And finally, in return of certain demands that the hijackers had made, they were met by the government of India and people were released. Uh, since then, there haven't been many instances of hijack other than something we all know about, which is 9/11. A bunch of people hijacked different aeroplanes and they used them as flying bombs, took them into towers. After 9/11, the aviation regulators around the world looked at various rules and all that, and new changes came in. It's very difficult now to breach the flight deck. The door between the cabin and the flight deck is bulletproof. There are protocols in place that the pilots will not open it for whatever may happen on the other side. Even if the hijackers start killing crew or passengers, the pilots are advised not to open it, because by opening, you are actually risking more lives. Nonetheless, should you find yourself in an aeroplane which you think has been hijacked, so let's run through our cycle actually. What is preparedness? Is what you're doing right now is preparedness actually, being aware of how hijacking happened and what you could do if you find yourself. So that's preparedness and awareness. Resilience is, be aware. Not all hijacks lead to a disaster. Most of them end with very little loss of life, if any. So, stay calm, be resilient, don't need to panic. That's what resilience is meant. We will discuss the nitty-gritties of being in a disaster like that. Uh, Obviously, lessons are learned. You communicate to your governments, and they feed back into preparedness. Okay, now jumping in or diving in, should you find yourself seated at 13B and suddenly a guy gets up, a bunch of guys get up, and they have purportedly weapons in their hand, and they say, "Stay seated. If you move, we'll kill you or blow this aeroplane," and all that. So what do you do? Nothing. That's a short answer. You do nothing. You stay calm and you follow the instructions of the hijacker. The cabin crew and the flight crew are trained to deal with this. They have SOPs in place. I'm sorry. They have procedures in place to deal with it. Passengers would do well not to interfere with those processes. So follow the hijacker's instruction, avoid eye contact, and do what they tell you. You have to understand the motivation of hijacker. If the idea was to blow up an aeroplane, they won't really hijack. If they've hijacked it, they probably want something in return. If they want something in return, then they value their life. So you've already crossed the first threshold. If the idea was to terrorize, a bomb would have gone off. If it is not, if they're trying to hijack it and make the authorities do what they want, the chances of survival are very, very high. So do nothing, avoid eye contact, try not be conspicuous, and follow the instruction. The crew will deal with them. Uh, as I said, after 9/11, the cockpit procedures have changed. It's very difficult to breach a flight deck unless the crew makes a mistake. So in all likelihood, your pilot would have sounded the hijack code. He or she would have informed the authorities, and the entire aviation architecture would be working on bringing you down as soon as possible, as safe as possible at the nearest airfield. Uh, okay, there are certain situations where the crew might announce they could be asking for doctors, the paramedics, people with aviation experience, and in some situations they could even be asking for ABM, which is able-bodied men. If one of the hijacker has been forced down into the seat, they would request people willing to help them out. And in order to restrain the hijacker or troublemaker, they would need restraints. They have some restraint. Please help out with a belt or a tie or whatever you have. That it's only on the instruction of the crew. You don't have to do anything. You do nothing and you respond to the crew's instruction. That is the bottom line here. One second. If you have access to internet, you know, uh, certain flight routes have access to internet and all that. Get into that internet and please start reporting it to your friends, to your family, or whatever access you have. Send out those details. If the crew has not been able to, those messages will go out and the authorities will respond accordingly. If you look out the window and you see a fighter jet or a pair of them, no need to worry. That's a good sign. That means people on ground have realized what has gone wrong and they are responding to it. The next challenge comes when the flight lands on ground. If the hijack situation is still alive, the authorities will storm the plane. They would breach the doors, windows, or maybe just a portion of the fuselage, they would come in, and it would be a very tense few seconds. The game is generally over in 30 to 40 seconds. What do? You follow instructions. You don't move. You don't run, thinking it's in time to get up and run. Do nothing. Stay in your place, bend down, reduce your size. The the commando team that has come in would take care of the hijackers. That is what you do. And leave the aircraft only when you are asked to, not before that. That's very important. If the hijackers have been kind of convinced to give up on their demand, or they have been disarmed by action of the crew, you might be asked to carry out an exit, a quick exit, without waiting for the kind of ladders to show up and all that. In those situations, the crew will deploy the slides and you'll be asked to exit quickly. Please follow crew's instructions. Once again, don't carry stuff with you. The stuff will come later. Just move without opening the overhead bin, picking up your favorite laptop or the box of sweets that you picked up from somewhere. Leave everything, follow crew instruction, and exit the aeroplane as ordered. So this is the summary should you find yourself in hijack situation. Any questions before I move to the next example?
For those that just joined, you can also message directly for a question. So we do have a question about turning on, or turning off rather, your airplane mode on your cell phone during a flight when there's been a hijack.
See, if there is no internet access on the flight deck, as you climb out of 2 or 3,000 feet, your phone data as such doesn't work. So if the question is related to hijack, it doesn't help. And if the point is, I don't turn uh, airplane mode on, I keep my cell phone on, nothing happens, all that, that's a different point. If you have access to internet, you know, get onto the internet, use your data, whatever you have, inform people what is going on. It's very important.
Okay, thank you.
Did I get the question? Sorry, please help me out if I didn't get the question.
Sure. I think you did. I think the curiosity is it okay to turn it on?
Yeah,
Or
please go
sorry, to
ahead. I
turn it
mean,
off. Mhm.
honestly speaking, I've been flying for more than 25 years now. The regulation came in and nobody wanted to change it. Nothing happens.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean you do not follow the cruise instruction, but if your phone is not on airplane mode, nothing happens to the airplane.
Mhm. Okay. Another question has come whether you should try to calm those around you in the hijack situation, maybe your friends or family seated next to you.
See, people you know, as you mentioned, friends and family or people who are traveling with you, it is always good to tell them, do not panic, because panic does not help. In panic, you're likely to make wrong moves. It's very wise suggestion to tell friends and family to calm down, but don't try it with strangers. Actually, somebody could be moving with a medical condition, and moment you tell them calm down, they might get irritated, or the level of discomfort might actually exaggerate. So
Hmm.
do it with people you know, certainly. Children, elders, friends, colleagues, do that. But try not do it with people you don't really understand. That does not mean don't help them out. Somebody's coughing, you have a bottle of water, hand it out. Somebody needs a towel or something, you have it, hand it out. Do that. Help out people. But advise, leave it to the crew. The crew will take care. The crew is trained actually to deal with such situations.
Okay. So another question has come in terms of what is the criteria where some flights have an air marshal? Not sure I. Mhm.
So the term was air marshal, sky marshal. The ICAO has started calling it in-flight security officer because that carries a little bit of legal weight around it. The whole idea is to have on board people who are authorized to carry arms and who could deal with a hijacker. See, none of us, as passengers or crew, none of us are allowed to carry arms. Even if a minister is traveling with personal security officers, their arms, they don't carry arms. Their arms are taken away from them. So on certain routes where the authorities believe, based on intelligence input or the region that they are dealing with, there is a possibility of a hijack or in-flight trouble, they would authorize law enforcement to travel in civvies carrying hidden arms so that they react to a situation that is based on the threat perception.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about the bulletproof standard for the flight deck, and that had maybe come in after 9/11 per se. Is that a
Correct.
global standard? Like, we've got people around the world here. Um,
So what happens is there is something called SARPS, Standards and Recommended Practices, that is released by ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. It's an umbrella body of all the countries that fly aeroplanes, which basically means everybody. Uh, it's one of the recommendation. Most what do I say? Air carriers and airlines follow it. There are certain mid-sized jets, there are certain business jets where there is no door. So basically, it's an open, it's just a curtain between the flight deck and the cabin. They won't have it. Airbus, Boeing, when they build their aeroplane, they make sure that the cockpit door can take a lot of stress and damage before it breaks open.
okay, great. Thank you. I believe that's all the questions we have. Unless somebody would like to pop one in before we move forward.
If
Okay,
there is none, let's go to the next one.
sure.
Okay, this is interesting. Uh, Once again, post 9/11, they've actually sucked the joy out of air travel. You get screened at entry to the airport, you get screened at the airline counter, you get screened through security, and in some places like India, you get screened before you board. Your luggage goes through so many screening. You personally go through patting, screening, X-rays, and so much. It's really difficult to kind of carry a bomb on board. However, there are certain equipment that gets on board which does not go through same level of scrutiny, like the meals that you eat or the luggage, etc. and all that. I'm not saying they do not get scanned; they do, but the levels of scrutiny is not very high in some places, and there's always a possibility of explosive finding its way onto an aeroplane. So if it goes kaboom, there is nothing you can do. But there are times when, through an intelligence alert or the bomber himself or herself informs because they want something written that there is a bomb on board. Most of the time, this threat comes before the flight is airborne. The flight is cancelled. The aeroplane is searched thoroughly through, electronic means, through physical means, and only when the aeroplane is cleared, it goes ahead and operates that flight. But there are occasions when you get this information after the aircraft is on board. So the last two significant bombings were, one was in 1985, Air India, sorry, Kanishka flying between Canada and India. 330 people died. And everybody's aware of Lockerbie bomber, 1988, again, 260 people died, London, New York. Uh, since then, there hasn't been a major explosion on board caused by a bomb. There have been explosions caused by rapid decompression and stuff like that. But should you find yourself in a situation where the cabin crew or the captain from flight deck announces that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, we have received information that there probably is a bomb on board, and we are going to land at the nearest suitable base, and I expect you not to worry and follow cruise instruction. Once again, like in the previous situation, the best thing you can do, or the thing that you can do, is follow cruise instruction. They are trained. They train for it when they get inducted as cabin crew or pilots. They train every 6 months. They train every year. There are regular intervals. They are trained on these issues. So the best thing is to follow the instruction of the crew. The crew on their part would go through a couple of steps. They would try and identify where the explosive is, what type of explosive it. Will it explode if I move it? Will it explode if there is change in pressurization? Will it explode if we put a weight on it? So they have their entire drill, They will go through the drill, and if in their opinion, or they think the bomb is actually in your close to your overhead bin and all that, they might ask you to get up, relocate. Even if the flight is full, they might still expect you to move and give you jump seat or something. So the crew will do their thing. They might also do something called as LRBL, which is least risk bomb location. Each aircraft has a place in that fuselage somewhere where it is believed or it is advised by the manufacturer that if something was to go off, this would cause the least possible damage. The crew, in their own wisdom and judgment, might uh, want to move a suspected object to the to that location. And to create LRPL, what they will do is they'll pick up everybody's bag and stack all around it, so that if the explosion happen, those bags will take the impact on the inside, and the fuselage wall will take it on the other side, and hopefully the damage on the inside will be limited. So that is what the crew would do. Most likely, as what we've seen in the last about 10-15 years, is probably a hoax call. And now it becomes important. The aircraft will be made to land at an area suitable base. Uh, it might be a military airfield. You will not have a ladder or even an aero bridge to come down. You will all likelihood be asked to slide down the slides. So please follow cruise instruction. When they ask you to leave, you leave. All right, you leave your stuff behind. Make sure you don't leave your children behind, but do not open that bin. Don't start picking up your stuff and start leaving. Follow cruise instruction. Your equipment, your luggage, your bag will follow. The thing you have to do, can do, should do is you follow your cruise instruction. Exit the aircraft. They'll take you a little distance from the aircraft. The authorities will do their thing. And once it is safe, they will pull out your stuff and hand it over. So this is what you do in case there's a bomb threat on board. Once again, if there are questions, we take it. Otherwise, we move to the next one.
Has there been any notable threat situations in recent years that haven't, resulted in a bombing on a plane, or any that you can touch on?
In India, not in the between month of Jan to March, there were more than 180 calls made that there's a bomb on board. A lot of time it was prank call. People missing their flight thought they could just call, there's a bomb on board. The flight will get delayed and catch it. But every call, so there is an SOP in place which every airline, every operator has to follow it. There's a there are steps given. Like every call, you identify it's specific or vague. The crew is trained to handle it. And is it is it prank call? And there are SOP. I don't want to get into them, but every bomb threat call is recorded. It's given an identification number, and people deal with it. A couple of years ago, there was a specific call given that LTT's operators have placed a bomb at Chennai airport. It was ignored at various levels, and it did go off. Fortunately, it was on ground. Those things are in the past. Now SOPs have taken shape. People are familiar with it. You would have noticed there hasn't been a bomb going off on board for a very long time now. Threat calls very routine.
Okay. Maisa, I think you got your hand up to ask a question. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your explanations. Yeah, I had a question. I wanted to ask if the flight crew or pilots go through the same level of security as passengers.
Yes, they have a separate queue per se that kind of makes it easier for them to process through the security. But the checks on them, on their equipment and their luggage is same as everybody else's. The only privilege they have is, the separate queue for them.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there's no other questions at the moment. Give it a.
So what I'll do is I'll cover a couple of other aviation related things at this stage itself. So, most of us don't pay attention to the pre-flight safety brief where, crew comes between couple of seats. They hang out a mask. They tell you what to do, emergency exit, etc. And either we're playing on our phones, we're trying to sleep or ignore. Those briefings are very important, and I'll cover three aspects from it. Uh, when they say the mask will drop, you put your mask yourself first before you decide to help each other. There is a relevance to it. I'll explain why. There's a thing called hypoxia, which is a state of oxygen or lack of oxygen, or oxygen levels much lower than what you need to survive. And related to it is TUC, which is time of useful consciousness. So if you're flying at 40,000 feet and a door flies away and the cabin starts to depressurize rapidly. Okay, let me come in here. The aeroplane may be at 40,000 feet. The place where you are seated is never more than 7,000 feet. The cabin is pressurized to keep you comfortable. But if something flies away, the outside pressure and the inside pressure would like to equalize, and that equalization happens fairly rapidly. The time of useful consciousness at that altitude is in seconds, is less than about 10, 12 seconds. It increases when you come down to say 30,000, 25,000 feet and all that. So if the depressurization was to happen at 40,000 or 35,000 feet and all that, you literally have seconds. If you do not start breathing oxygen through that mask, your ability to function like a normal human being and make decisions would actually disappear very, very quickly. Therefore, they say, put on your mask first and then help an elderly or a child traveling next to you. Even if the child has lost the ability to make decision, no problem. You have your mask going, you have oxygen incoming, then you help the child. The child will quickly recover. So that is the logic, and you must pay attention to it. The mask drops. The mask will only drop when the system has sensed that the cabin is depressurizing. So mask drop, put it on, and they tell you moment you pull the elastic, the oxygen flow starts. You make secure yourself and then help out people traveling next to you. That's one thing. Next thing is they tell you where the life vest is, below the seat or depending on various configuration. Generally in airline or Airbus and Boeing, they are below the seat. They tell you pull the life vest when the crew tells you. Do not inflate it. Inflation is fairly simple. There's a knob and a kind of string attached to it. You tug it and it'll start inflating, or you could actually blow air through your mouth and inflate it. They tell you specifically do not blow or do not inflate the life vest inside the aircraft. But if you panic and start inflating, you know what will happen? If the water comes inside, you will float. You will go and hit the roof and you will never be able to make the door. So that's why you always go out of the door and then inflate the life vest. So these are very, very crucial things. Another example is they tell you to keep the shades open during departure and landing and all that. Very crucial. Should one of the engine catch fire or should there be a damage in one of the engine, the cabin crew can lean through the window, assess the extent of damage, and inform the flight deck, because the pilots can't literally really see the what is physically. They have instrumentation in front of them telling them something wrong with the engines, but it is always better to get a visual assessment. That is why they ask to keep the shades open. And the last point, when you exit, no belongings, please, because one, it slows down the entire process of you leaving the aircraft safely. It puts the life and risk of people following you. And if there is something sharp, it could actually rupture that slide or a life vest, which will put your life in danger and put the life of your co-passengers in danger. So aviation related things, the crew is actually designed or trained to handle with most things. Follow the crew. On your part, be aware of what is happening. Pay attention to the briefing, and most of the things are covered there. Questions now.
Okay, none has come through so far. Oh, here we are. The question is about a separate airplane mode need. I'm not sure I fully get it myself. Oh, on the phone, a separate mode? Mm.
I don't know. Maybe try and make sense of whatever you are reading, and let's see. We'll try and address it.
Okay. I think this perhaps is you've answered it earlier, in asking about why we have a separate airplane mode. Like, what's the need for having that airplane mode?
So if you have music downloaded in your phone is basically a device like laptop or a desktop or something. It has storage. If you have movies or videos and audios or your messages or email downloaded, you can go through them without connecting with the internet or the basic assumption was when your phone is transmitting and receiving, it could interfere with the navigation aids on board aircraft because the frequency bands, UHF band, SF band, were nearly similar. The problem does not exist. For some reason, the authorities have not done away with regulation. It doesn't make any sense. The science does not demand that you go on aeroplane mode. It's a regulator's requirement.
Okay. I've also seen in some cases, or rather not seen, experience that maybe some airlines require you to, take out your headphones or earphones when departing, and some say no, it's not really an issue. How do you, or what's your opinion on that?
See, end of the day, aviation is a business. The airlines would want people to really enjoy their flight and come back and fly with them again and again. But if that was not the requirement, if the mandate was to make sure that your trip is safe, even to your discomfort, I would make sure that all of you pay attention to cruise briefing. You are not distracted through any device. I would lock up every device and put them away so that during departure and landing, when time is of essence, actually, every second matters. If there is an engine on fire and we need to stop immediately, if the undercarriage collapses, we need to exit quickly. I want your full attention. So once again, on that scale, some might just leave it to chance, and some might insist during departure if we have a collision with a truck or engine fails and we abort takeoff and there's a need to get out quickly, they want your full attention. In fact, in India, there's a rule that when you're operating out at defense airfields, you keep your shades down. Uh, this runs contrary to the safety principle that you won't shade up during departure. If you notice something abnormal happening, you can inform the crew and the crew can inform the pilot. But this regulation has come because people ripping out their mobile phone and clicking pictures and all that. So
Hmm.
sometimes the regulations run contrary to the safety requirement.
Hmm. Right, so I think you've got a question. You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask if people are too panicked to follow the crew's order, how should we react or how should crew members manage that, especially during some disaster happening in the air?
Uh, Despite thousands of years of evolution, we are basically animals actually, and human beings are species. So when we perceive there is a danger to our survival, I mean, if our life in danger, we literally go animal mode. There is a tendency, obviously, to do what you think is going to save yourself, and the panic sets in. The crew are trained to kind of organize the crowd in a manner that saves most lives. The thing that you can do is not panic yourself. The aisle are designed in such a manner that not more than one or two people can go through that. If if somebody in panic falls, it impedes the flow of people. So panic does not help. Uh, what you can do is the first point is preparedness and awareness. Having attended these classes, you are aware of these situations. You have prepared yourself mentally. Hopefully, next time the crew briefs, you will pay more attention. So, this is what you can do and encourage your friends, colleagues, relatives, children to be aware as you are right now.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All of you, please go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is for commercial flights, how often do these inspections happen for any equipment like oxygen masks or anything?
Can you frame it for me, Sachin?
Okay, it's like for commercial flights. when they've actually dropped your equipment in case if there's any emergency? Do they come out for checking if you're doing it in the right way or something?
Okay, let me understand it. Uh, if I get it right, the first part is if the mask drops, will it actually work or not? How often it's checked? So there is a periodicity defined for each equipment. Everything is supposed to work 100%, especially life critical system like mask. It is not that out of 180 seats in aeroplane, they will check at random 6 or 7 or not. No, all 180 will be checked. And there is periodicity defined. It could be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year that the manufacturer decides. The whole thing has to be fed by oxygen. The capacity of those cylinders, when they were charged, how they were charged, is monitored almost every day. No flight is undertaken unless all these things are certified. The second part is once the mask has come down, who will come and ensure that you won the mask correctly? Because a briefing is not adequate. You just might be doing it wrong. Uh, the crew can't move too much because if they move themselves, they will lose consciousness. So till the aeroplane has come down to say below 10,000 or below 14,000 at least, nobody's coming to your help. You got to do it yourself.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I think I've also got one. Some point last year, I was reading a lot of news related to aircraft or the rate of incidents based on the brand of aircraft, whether it's Boeing or Airbus and that sort of thing. Is that something people need to think about when booking a flight or thinking about traveling?
Once again, it's very personal. Boeing came out with 737 Max, which, in opinion of experts, was a design not fit to fly, especially with certain kinds of automation. They continue to deny there is a problem unless two aeroplanes actually hit the ground, killing almost 500 people. Not 500, lesser than that, 350 odd people. And then they went back and changed the design. So if you go back to my first slide, which is preparedness and awareness, this feeds into awareness. You know, being aware of if there's a design problem with certain type of aircraft, obviously it makes sense to not fly that type of airplane unless that problem has been resolved. I don't say panic. So when I say, once again, it's a very generic point. When I say survival oriented, it does not mean scared. Life has to be enjoyed. If you wish to skydive, please go ahead and skydive. If you want to go deep sea diving, please go ahead and do that. If you want to run a motorbike, please go ahead and do that. What survival minded means is be aware of what can go wrong and see if you prepared yourself. I mean, learn CPR, learn first aid, learn, how to stop a blood flow and stuff like that. So prepare yourself and go ahead. And life is best lived when it is risked, actually. So that is what I meant. Sorry, I digressed. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, no, I think it does help to understand, the example of the Airbus, well, sorry, the Boeing design there as well, being awareness. That was good. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes? Okay. Doesn't seem to be any right now.
So actually, I've run this. This would be the next one is this slide that has a question mark on it. So I now open the floor to even situations which have not been covered. And if you wish to ask, I would be happy to answer.
Yeah, I guess we can have open for questions on the entire session.
Not just the session. I mean, anything related to aviation,
Oh,
dealing with contingencies, disasters, man-made, natural. I mean, it's an open session now. I've had a fair bit of experience dealing with earthquakes and floods, etc., and all that. So even aviation, if there is a question, I'd be happy to answer.
so there's a question on whether you've had any real world terror experience or been in such situation to manage.
I was in Kashmir Valley for 3 years. It was an everyday occurrence, actually. So details I would not like to share.
Hmm, sure. Thank you. Would you say the standards for dealing with terror attack globally, like perhaps I'm in South Africa here, you're seated in India, would you say the standards are pretty globalized and reliable in that way, or is it very individualized to the country, in terms of how the government may enforce that or the
You know,
force?
a very, very interesting question, and that connects to so many things. I mean, it's such a loaded question. So when 9/11 happened, anybody with a name that had Muhammad or Ahmad or anything in it became a suspect for United States. Uh, Not just suspicion, even for slightest of reason, they would pull people out and put them through torture. And you know, so obviously the standards are different. Uh, in a normal, I, if there's a knife attack, there was a knife attack actually in London, and that guy was a teenager. The police went to a great extent not to release that guy's name because a minor has a right. That same level does not apply to every place else. So if I was to simplify it, the societies, the communities, and the countries that have seen a relative level of peace, where life is valued, they live in comfort, they tend to give a little bit wider margin to people who could be accused of terrorism. Countries which suffer every day's attack and all that, they have little less patience with it, and on even on suspicion, they would put people on ground and put them in jail. So standards vary largely based on how developed and how economically settled a community is, and also how powerful they are actually.
Hmm.
So I would like to ask a generic question like, when does the IF actually get involved? Like, suppose an earthquake has happened. So, what are the procedures that will involve the Indian Air Force? We know there are multiple agencies like NDMA and quite the local police. So, how is this coordination decided? Uh,
So the armed forces in every country has a secondary role of dealing with natural disasters. They don't decide on their own when to kick in. It is the civil administration on the advice of the political leadership at all levels, from district to state to nation, that decides that things are beyond us. We need help. And then they requisition the Air Force. And in that requisition form, they specify what help do they need. Do they need helicopters? Do they need medics? Do they need, access to vehicle? Do they need access to places? So that requisition is made. Mostly it is done on phone. The form actually follows, and the armed forces kick in with whatever resources that they have. So the requisition has to be made by civil administration.
Okay. I've got a question on situations of martial law, and I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that, but I've experienced a situation where some event has happened, or there's some crowd issue, and an area has kind of gone into, maybe not officially, but its own sort of martial law, and citizens are kind of in that state of mind. And yeah, I'm kind of wondering if you might have some thoughts on what to do
So
in such
this
a
this
situation.
term called martial law actually connects normally, not normally, at post Second World War, especially the post-colonial period, when the colonizers left. They left very strong army, and generally the senior most general started calling them the marshals. And at some stage, they decided to throw the civilians out and took power. Though this process was called as martial law, the marshal or the most senior general of that country took power in their hand, which in a sense means when the military takes over running the administration, it's a, you can call it coup, you can call it junta, or it's called military rule. That is what is martial law. Smaller countries, it's easier to for the military to take over. Sometimes there's a conflict between two factions of military, like the one which is happening in Sudan now. The RSF and the traditional military are fighting each other for a while now to wrest control from each other. So martial law is essentially military taking or running of that place.
Okay,
Oh,
there's
sorry, what was the second part of the question?
or perhaps in a circumstance, maybe you're in a community where the law enforcement or even the military is not really enforcing what needs to happen, or in that time period, they're kind of blocked off from where you are, and people are sort of taking law into their own hands, per se, a community or so. Advice in that sort of situation.
So the military normally is the last resort of the state. It's the last argument. If your military fails, then there is chaos on the street. There's nothing much you can do about it. If
Mm-hmm.
so how do societies keep order? You know, so the first gap was filled by religion. Every religion said, when nobody's watching, he is watching. You told everybody, don't do wrong because God is watching. Follow the ethos and the rules as set forth by the society. And then came the law enforcement at various levels. The word that we use in India is samaj. The communities discipline each other. They tell you this is done, this is not done. Then some kind of legal enforcement happens from policemen and paramilitary. And the last argument of the state is obviously the military of the state. If the military is designed to shoot and kill people, not really advise them to follow rules and orders. So that's how the law enforcement works.
Okay. There's a question on a terror situation, and in terms of if you're threatened with a weapon to help an attacker do something that may be harmful to others, do you stall for time? Do you fight, or do you suggest others to resist with you when you don't want to follow that direction, but you also don't want to get hurt?
You'll have to come again. Sorry.
So the question is, perhaps you're involved in a terror attack or situation, and the attacker is asking you to do something which could harm other people. I think there's a request for guidance. What should you do? Should you try to stall doing that action that you're being forced to do, or should you fight, or rouse the people around you to help, kind of thing?
So if you are a member of a military force or something, the rules for you are different from if you're a normal civilian, enjoying your holiday, and somebody points a gun to your head, says, pick up this baseball bat and clobber your friend there, or I'll kill you. Very difficult ask. Uh, if you don't do it, he would kill you. And if you do it, he would likely see you kill him and then kill you. The only one answer is to both of you to fight. There is no other choice because even if you do what they ask you to do, their intention is to kill you. They're just, and deriving sick pleasure out of the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. So Carola has a hand up. You can go ahead.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. It was wonderful. I had a little question. What are the most essential items that should be included in an emergency kit at home? Because I know the radio, batteries, everything, but is there some items that are very needed?
So see, most people are aware of, especially, tornado warning, hurricane warning. You keep a water bottle, you keep some chocolates, you carry a battery and torch and, searchlight, etc. and all that. But there is one item which people tend to miss is a whistle. If you are buried but not dead for a couple of days and you want to raise your voice, you will not be able to speak because there's no energy left in it. But if you're carrying a whistle and you start whistling, when the responders come, they will find you. So please add that item, a whistle, a loud one, in your
Ah,
emergency kit. Besides, obviously, water, some kind of dry food, and a searchlight, a mobile phone, and whatever else and all that. And have this kit ready, bag in a bag, functional, so that you don't start assembling it when that emergency strikes.
okay, because now I have an emergency kit at home without a whistle, so I think that's a good one.
Yeah, please add that. It's very
Yeah,
handy. Even dogs, especially if the building is collapsed and all that, they're looking for
yeah.
survivors. Uh, Most whistles have the human frequency range is 20 to 20,000 hertz actually. The whistles go slightly outside that, which the dogs can monitor. So it's very handy. Have a whistle there.
Ah, thank you.
Wow, great.
I have one question. So recently, there was a lot of situation developed between our two countries, India and another country. So there was a lot of news going on. So it was quite confusing. So what is your like? There was a lot of every minute there used to be an update, and we could not recognize if it's fake or authentic. So how do
Somebody,
we ensure that?
no, no, no. Right after First World War, somebody had said, truth is the first casualty in war. Don't look for truth. It'll come, it'll settle down. Lie has speed, truth has endurance. Just wait. I mean, why do you need it quickly, or why do you need that information immediately unless it's life threatening? Don't worry. You know, the lie would run its course. It is very fast, but truth has endurance. Give it some time. You will know the truth.
Yes,
Modern
that's true.
societies can't hide the truth for too long. We live in a hyper information age. We need water, food, shelter, and information. We can't survive without it. So the truth will filter out. It's okay. Don't worry.
Great. Maisa, go ahead.
Hi. About the war and what Mohanish just mentioned, I wanted to ask if we are in a situation that we just get informed something bad is happening. For example, some countries are attacking, or something dangerous is happening during the war in the district we are living in. What is the first steps to follow to save ourselves and people around us, especially, for example, in those situations that we have no internet connection or we cannot use our phone properly.
So if you go back to the
And
first,
we just need to save ourselves. Where should we go? What is the best place to shelter?
uh, can you go back to the first slide, Sachin? The next one, sorry, huh? Okay, so I don't know whether you were there from the beginning. So this is,
No, sorry.
yeah, no worry. So,
Mhm.
if you look at it, that managing the disaster is the fourth point. There are three steps before that. One is preparedness and being aware, and then building resilience. So if you go to a place, or you live in a place particularly, you should be aware at all times of what bad things can happen. Read the bulletins, read the news, be aware of the local helplines, 911, 112, be aware of the law enforcement, be aware of the first responders. That goes into preparedness and being aware, situationally aware. If you're aware, then you would remove yourself from the point of conflict. You would get adequate notice. If you come and visit a place in, say, India or Pakistan, and these countries start fighting, if you're aware of it, you will not go there. And if you go there and things start happening, you will remove yourself from that place. So the first thing you do is be prepared, be aware, and remove yourself from the point of conflict, yourself as well as your family, especially the vulnerables. Actually, move to hinterland, move to a deeper place, or move out of that country completely if you can. That's the thing you do.
Yes, thank you so much. For example, in one of the situation I caught myself in was that one of my friends were in only checking the news that if something happens in order that Pakistan start the war again, and that the ceasefire, what they should do. And it was at midnight, and I was thinking, okay, I'm also living in a country that has the possibility of war. So sometimes I think that, okay, for example, it's midnight, you're sleeping, and you have no clue that it's going to be a war, or it's a ceasefire. You're not expecting a war that happens in middle of the night, for example, because as I followed the news for India, I noticed a lot of the attacks were happening in middle of the night while people were sleeping, or it wasn't during the day that people were more aware. So if it happens, like if an unexpected attack happens in middle of the night, for example, when we cannot be prepared, or we just were living our lives, we didn't know that an attack is coming. what is the best thing to do? Like, should we get medicine first? Should we get like children or food or identity cards? Which are the most essential things that we have to have with ourselves in order to survive? Because at that moment, I guess our brains just shut down and we cannot even think what to do first.
Okay, your questions has many questions, and well, let me split them and answer one by one. What is it? You can't start assembling things when, the proverbial shit hits the fan. So you have to have your go-to bag ready. Especially if you are in a foreign country, you have to have a bag ready, which has the passport, some currency, a water bottle, some chocolates, which will keep you alive for some time, and anything else that you consider essential, including medicines and all that. So the go-to bag is ready. In case you need to run in a hurry, you just pick up that bag and nothing else and leave. Likewise, some footwear in which you can run and walk comfortably is right next to the door. So you wear something quickly, pick that bag, wear that footwear and leave. You have to think exit before you enter. Next part is, should the bullets and the bombs start flying in the middle of night? The surprise factor is gone from war completely. If you were to follow Twitter or X, as they call it nowadays, there was a minute-to-minute reportage on what is happening. So if you follow local handles, if you go on whatever social media that you follow, you will not be surprised. There are people who monitor situations every hour, every minute, 24/7, and they would be able to give you some heads up. And the next part is, I remember it was 2015, I think. I was in Afghanistan, and I had a group visiting from Nigeria because somebody told them they were briefed that everything is fine in Kabul and Kandahar. There is no problem in the airport, which is technically correct. Till airport, there was no problem. The problem actually starts when you leave the airport, get into that pickup truck and move to wherever you are for an aid agency or whatever. So, do your research before you go to a place which could be trouble.
Yes, exactly. Everywhere we go, there are a lot of news that we can follow nowadays. That's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Marta, and thanks for the answer.
Social media. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I don't know if we have any others. I know we've we've gone to about an hour and a half now. I don't have any in the chat. I think we're all good.
Okay, if there are none, then we can wind it. I would leave my email and my Twitter handle with you. If people have questions, they can shoot. For next couple of days, I try and provide follow-on answers.
Please, thank you. That would be really appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone,
Okay.
for attending the session, and thank you, Captain Ajay, for all your valuable insights. I've definitely learned so much, and the way you've answered the questions has been really valuable as well. We really appreciate it, and I hope there's been some impact.
Well, thank you so much. Last chance, anybody happy to answer before I start drinking? It's Saturday. Anyone? No one? Okay, then.
All good. Sure.
Guys, it was very nice interacting with you. I wish we could have done it in person, maybe some other time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
sir.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Have a nice drink.
Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm logging off. Thank you so much. You have a good one.
Sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you so
Goodbye.
much.